Welcome to Hyperdrive Hour, everyone. Today is the first three episodes of Ahsoka. That's the discussion topic. Woo, exciting. Uh, I'm Justice. Hello. Donovan, take it away with the intro. Say
Greetings,
hi.
I am Donovan. Hi, I'm saying hi. Hello.
Yeah, it's cool enough. Marin, it's your turn.
Howdy, my name is Marin, also known as Sick Dr. Art on all socials. Sonata, over to you.
Hello, I'm Sonata, and I have opinions, some of which may actually be right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways,
Alright. Where do we
Start with
start?
episode one, I guess.
Yep.
do we want to start with episode 1? Just be like,
Yep.
air it all
You
out?
gotta
Yep.
start at the beginning. Gotta start at the beginning, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I liked episode 1. I'm gonna say it flat out. I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
As did I.
I thought
I
it
don't
was
think that's a
good.
controversial opinion.
I thought that they characterized everybody well. And I felt like the characters were acting like the characters. Which is always, for me, it's always kind of like a gamble, even if it's the same director or writer. Transferring something from an animated media to a live action is just difficult, especially when there has been a time skip. So yeah, but thought it was good. Ahsoka still acts like Ahsoka, just a bit more mature. She still snips. She's still got her quips and stuff. Sabine is still rebellious and smart alecky. Yeah, in terms of the characters that we've seen before, I thought it was cool. Also, live action Clancy Brown Pog.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, I just kind of like took that from everybody.
Do
No.
you like credits, Mr. Krabs?
No, yeah, I think everything made the transition from animation to live action fairly well.
Mhm.
Most things. Um,
Are we gonna talk about them now, Justice, or are we gonna wait for
alright,
overall thoughts?
you do
Oh,
yours,
here we go.
because I noticed it episode 1. I've noticed it all the episodes. You do yours.
Yeah.
I got another one, too.
Alright.
Oh
So
no.
I first noticed this in Mando when Ahsoka showed up.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure Ahsoka's Montrals and Leku are made from the cheapest, shittiest foam possible. Because there are some shots and some lights where you can see the pattern of the foam in the prop. Like especially where it's all wrinkled around her ears. You can see the foam pattern, the foam pattern, and it just looks so wrong. And that's one of the few gripes I have with the costuming so far, is that it just doesn't look good.
I'm pulling up my Disney. I have been watching these episodes so late at night that I haven't noticed. At least I haven't noticed that specific thing.
It was particularly noticeable in episode 1 and episode 3 when they're on the ship after the starfighter scene, like the space battle.
Okay.
Is when I noticed it most. But it could just be my brain inserting texture where there is none. But I'm like 90% certain that there is just an odd texture to the Leku that doesn't look right.
Nope, I understand. You and I talked about it slightly earlier. I've noticed it every time she's on screen in live action. It's specifically, yeah, where it creases around the ears, it looks rough.
I'm pulling up the episode right now because I don't necessarily recall what you're talking about. Like, yeah, the area where it creases around kind of her ears or where it bends over her shoulders is a little bit rough, but I also feel like I don't know, it's just we've seen live action Leku. We haven't really seen live action Togruta that close and that much before. At least not to my knowledge. We've seen a couple scenes of live action Shakti, but other than that, really nothing.
Yeah.
I
I
guess
mean, to
I
be honest,
haven't found any.
it's kinda obvious even in like the art on the like on the the main splash art on the Disney Plus page. I'm gonna post a picture of it in the Discord channel. Just like I know it's
It's
probably
wrinkly. That's
actually
just like
it's
natural texture.
I know that that's what it's supposed to be a lot of the time, but it just looks like it's made of a bad material most of the time, not like actual like proper wrinkles.
I can
Mhm.
see what they're talking about,
I
and
can as well.
my brain kind of like put in its own explanation of, well, she's on the older side, so it would make sense for there to be some signs of aging upon her person. So that's where my brain went automatically.
I guess it's just because like, yeah, I to me that's
My
never been
my
like a
other
gripe that I've had.
my other main issue is that where the wrinkles are doesn't look natural for someone who's actually like turning their head and looking around. It's like the really pronounced ones in that picture that you just posted, Marin.
Mm.
Uh, those those to me are in very specific places for like someone looking up and down, but having absolutely no uh having like barely any experience like actually turning their head side to side, and it just
I can see that.
doesn't look right. I've
I don't know.
got
I guess
I've got my gripes with it. It's not ruining my experience. It's throwing me out
mm,
of immersion a little bit, but that's not really the biggest deal. That's not the biggest deal breaker to me, rather.
mm.
All right, my other one, because I've got another one that goes into this. Why do they make Hera's eyes so damn bright? Yeah, so
See,
so in the first
You do
episode,
kind of have
right?
a point.
You do get a few shots of her, and I think that in the most part, she made the transition really well. And then I get like jump scared by glowing eyes, and I'm like, because like they're the right color, but they're also not. Because like in Rebels, I feel like I wasn't staring at a woman that was like also a like supernatural vampire type like character. Um, but her eyes are like really bright. It's funny. It's funny to me.
what threw me off about Hera was how bright her lips were, not her eyes. Her lips are like I'm pretty sure that I have that lip color. It is so fucking bright. Like I said, it's not throwing me out of the immersion. I'm just like, wow, Hera, that is not your color, sweetie.
The
I think because I feel like it's also pretty obvious that, like, just in the comparison, like, just drawing like, obviously, there's some issues switching between animated and live action.
Obviously, there's going to be
The
plenty of that.
the lip color is just flat wrong. We can all say that. But also the fact that in no like in nowhere in animated, to the best of my knowledge, does Hera ever wear eyeshadow.
Yeah,
And again,
I'm looking at it.
I'm not sure about those I'm not sure about I think that might be part of why her eyes are so bright in comparison, because the eyeshadow's darkening the skin around the eye.
I'm about 90% sure she does in the Rebels season finale when they show Jason for the first
Yeah,
time.
that's entirely
Mm.
possible. It's been
I've-
literally years since I've seen that, and I've only seen it once. So
yeah. Part of it is also just like, I mean, you can only do so much when people aren't actually green. So, because they're like,
Yeah,
whenever
hear me
you
out. Green
look,
lipstick.
no, whenever I'm going back to the subject of her eyes, also part of the reason why her eyes appear to be so bright is just because you can see the actual like skin tone of her eyeballs, her really like on her eyelids and in her inner corner and stuff. Um and it's just it tends to throw people off because green is so. The actress herself has a very warm skin tone, and putting green on top of that is very difficult to cancel it. To cancel it out, it's very difficult, and so it's just hard to make it look natural. And so I think that's kind of part of why Hera
All they had,
specifically looks kind of unnatural.
all I had to do was give her less bright eye contacts. That's my thing here. Is I don't think that it's because they've already got her wearing contacts. I don't think it's that much of an issue to like. I don't think it's like that hard of a thing to just not make them as strong in that color. But oh well. We're nitpicking already. We haven't talked enough about like the actual show.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about like the actual plot of the episode itself, and then we'll go into nitty gritty nitpicky.
So that
So-
introduction,
Yeah.
I liked it quite a bit. It was, in my opinion, it was really well paced to like get you back into the shoes of a character that we haven't spent a whole lot of time around in quite a bit.
And yeah, you're talking about Ahsoka at the discount Zepho site,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I
mean,
thought
that
we
episode
we're gonna
starts
talk about
with
yeah. The episode starts with the introduction of
Galen
the
and Skull.
villains.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. The
Good
introduction
old-
to Ahsoka, I should have been specific.
Yeah.
Mm.
The villain introduction is very good.
Yes,
It is.
I love
Skull-
Galen and Hati.
yeah. Their names are very with the mythological connotations of Skull and
Mhm.
Hati. I am very interested to see how they turn out.
Yeah.
They
Man,
already seem atypical of Darksiders for a couple of reasons that I'll discuss more in when we talk about episode 3. But that's just my opinion of the situation. And might actually have no bearing on reality, so I'll stop on this digression while I still can. They're
Who'd have thought
suitably
that the-
threatening.
God damn it.
Their motivations are fairly well spelled out, but not to the point of like, oh hey, he is doing this for X reason. He's and because of this traumatic backstory incident. There's still room to learn about them, and that's intriguing to me.
I mean, they tell you quite a fair bit about him without telling quite a fair bit about him. I mean, you get them. They have a classic, Jedi shuttle that we've seen in the Clone Wars using old Jedi codes, but they're very clearly not Jedi. So it's like they do a good job of kind of the showing and not telling at first approach to storytelling, where you get quite a bit out of them in that scene, while also setting up the part of the main plot, and while doing so, you also get to watch them kick ass, and yet another example of why you never meet somebody in a hallway when they have a lightsaber. Like I just
Real.
Or if you're going to do it, make sure you have explosives in the hallway.
yeah.
I'm just gonna say something,
Mhm.
and this is just a general observation. This isn't a good or bad thing. It's just a thing. Hati looks like she'd listen to MCR and Pierce the Veil.
That would have more impact on me if I knew what either of those were.
What?
My Chemical Romance, Black Parade.
Black Parade I don't recognize, but My Chemical Romance does ring a bell.
What?
Do we?
All right, podcast
Hold on.
over.
Podcast over. You have to know. I'm
Tune back
gonna-
in next week for Hyperdrive Hour 2, where we boot Sonata off the podcast and give us a reboot.
Yeah. Live action this time.
Live action. Well,
Anyways, but yeah, she looks like she would listen to like My Chemical Romance and Pierce the Veil and Deftones. which is like not a bad thing. It just like looks like she would. But
Well,
I
she
love
looks
her.
like
I
she
love
has the.
her. I love her.
She looks like she has the Jeopardy music going on in her head at all times.
You're
She looks
Not
very
wrong.
lost.
She
A little bit.
she
That fight
always
scene
looks a
in
little
episode 3.
surprised.
Oh god, I'm trying to think about like other thoughts that I. Okay,
somebody
I
somebody make an edit of every moment with Shen except there's fucking Jeopardy music playing.
yeah. Okay,
thought
I've
that.
took notes after I watched each episode, and I'm trying to.
Wow, overachiever.
Well,
In the
it's just like
broad-
general thoughts and things that I found interesting. It's not actual in-depth shit. One of my notes is quite literally Night Sister Pog.
On
Oh yeah,
that
do we want
note,
to talk about Morgan Elsbeth?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we could talk a little bit about her, but I mean, technically, her real introduction is later into that. Is she even in episode?
Mhm.
She's
Yeah,
not even really.
she's in the
She's in
intro.
episode 1 in the intro, but
Yeah.
the big reveal about her is episode 2. But we should.
Okay.
We're talking about the other villains. We should probably talk about her.
Yeah. Precursor to conversation later on, I did not expect her to be as big of an antagonist as she is. I thought she was
Oh,
just
yeah.
going to be like a kind of a means to an end for Skull and Hati, and then just kind of move on to whatever the fuck she wanted to do. But no, she's like
As opposed to vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting like chess master vibes from her.
Yeah. She's like Thrawn, but divided by 2.
All right.
In before Morgan Elspeth is actually Admiral Park or whatever. No, that's the
No.
wrong gender. What the fuck am I on about?
I'd say you can.
I was going to
I
say,
think
I'm a
I was-
dumbass.
Yeah.
Oh.
And for our Game of Thrones reference of the episode, she gives me big Cersei Lannister vibes and the way she plans.
yeah.
And that she wants to be Tywin, you know, this Giga Chad fucking
Mhm.
Omega
Oh,
big
yeah.
brain
And-
planner. And
Where
then
Thrawn is Tywin, right?
and
Yeah.
then she's not. She's just not.
Somehow still infinitely more interesting than Cersei though, because she has more to her than incest. I hate Cersei.
Look.
Yeah.
Guys, should we? I feel like we should kick Sonata and turn this into a Game of Thrones podcast.
That-
No.
Look,
I
I
mean-
mean,
if you were to do that, it would make sense to kick me out since I have no fucking
Yeah,
idea.
that's why we're kicking you.
so that would force me to watch more of Game of Thrones, and I'm not sure I want to do that.
Shut up, you've watched enough. It's all downhill from where we stopped with
Yeah.
you.
Anyways, do we want to
Uh,
keep talking about Ahsoka?
No.
Yes, we probably should. So, as Sonata brought up, Ahsoka's introduction is next.
I like the way that they introduced her by doing I don't know how else to say it, but just like Ahsoka shit. She's just like
Yeah.
off on her own. She's not with Ghost Crew. She's not with any other Jedi or anything. She's just kind of off doing her own thing with Hu Yang. I always thought it was pronounced Huang, not Hu Yang. But
Speaking
it's
of,
okay.
shout out to David Tennant.
Yeah, David
Yep.
Tennant Pog. I love that man. But it's a good introduction to her character because it shows how clever she is and how quick on her feet she is,
Oh, yeah.
and how much she has grown in maturity, but how much she's kind of stayed the same. There's a lot of whenever we talk more about, I have a lot of thoughts about Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship, and so kind of whenever we get more into that, I'll discuss it.
I
thought
just
that
enjoyed her solution to the droid problem being just, they're going to be underground now.
I thought the temple puzzles were funny because they seemed like the simplest shit ever. It's just like, oh, all we got to do is make these lines line up. Oh, okay.
Reminded me
will
of like
say
Siberia.
that part of why I really like this episode is because they give us two really good in media res openings. For those listeners who don't know, and for those on the podcast who may not know, in media res is just in the middle of the action, roughly translated. It means you're starting your observation in the middle of the story. Ahsoka, we don't know why. We don't know how she got there. We know why she's there now, uh, but she was there doing her thing, and then the story zoomed in on her. Same with
Yeah.
the ship that Skull and Hati attacked. They were off doing their thing, as opposed to like a story that starts, oh, you guys, all these player characters meet up in a tavern. That's not an in media res story, because that's where the story starts.
Mhm.
Whereas these are two really good setups for characters that have been doing their own thing, and it feels like it because we're joining them partway through.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I would say to a lesser extent it is the same with Sabine because she's like kind of off doing her own shit, but she's also like doing nothing. I don't know.
That's the thing.
thing.
I generally view the start of these things as, do we see their call to action or not?
Mm.
Ahsoka's call to action was back in Clone Wars.
Yeah, this is kind of Sabine picking up her feet.
Picking up her feet and getting a new call to action to help Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So Sabine isn't really in media res because she's just kind of stagnant where she is before Ahsoka gets there.
Yeah, okay. I kind of misunderstood. But yeah, now I get it now.
Speaking of Sabine, I just want to say that the way they reintroduce her to us in the show is pretty on brand with how the character would be. I think.
Oh god,
Just,
it's fucking perfect.
just speak in front of all these people? I don't think so.
I'm
I
gonna go
think
off
we
and do my own shit. I don't want to
How-
talk to these people.
I don't know. I think we could have used a bit more graffiti.
Yeah. No, I actually don't disagree there. We missed out on some.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
tag the E-wing as she flew under it.
tag
That
the
would have
E-wing,
been sick as
tag the
hell.
E-wing, or just have her speeder be really brightly colored. Like her armor used to be back in Rebels.
It still is pretty bright.
It's still pretty bright, but it just doesn't have that same vibrancy to me. But that could just be my
Also,
perception.
it's partly because in animation you can just turn colors up in saturation. You can't necessarily do that in real life, especially
Her
with
armor
camera
also
lighting.
consolidates its own art style as
Mhm.
the seasons go on. By the end of season 4, her armor is a lot less hodgepodge of spray paint all over the place, and definitely more really unique colors, but
Yeah.
down to a considerable, like,
I
almost
don't
single
hate
style.
the armor. I just feel like that purple could possibly be a bit brighter. Less gray is what I'd kind of be interested in. But that's just a shitty opinion from me. I just feel like part
Well,
of
if we wanna
Sabine's
get into
identity is as an artist. And from that introduction, I don't really pick that up. And I feel like that's an important part of the character that's lost if this is the only thing you've seen from her.
You wanna know what I thought was really cool about Sabine's design? Or I suppose her costuming, rather? Her nail polish is chipped, which is I saw that for the first time. I was like, oh, does she have like a design on her nails? No, her nail polish is chipped, which is like, I mean, as a person who paints their nails and does art all the time. Sorry, my cats are fighting right next to me. I just thought that was a really, really cool detail. I do feel like that
Meanwhile,
they could have done more to kind of emphasize the fact that she is an artist, but I feel like still did a pretty good job. It's not like terrible.
meanwhile, her nail
Sorry,
polish
go
being
ahead, Dave.
chipped just went right over my head because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to small details like that.
Oh my god, no! I was like looking. No, I saw like a little bit of like lighter color on her nails. I was like, whoa, 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 wait! And I paused the episode and I took a screenshot and I zoomed in and I was like, hold on a minute, polish is chipped.
Yeah,
I guess
can't.
I'm
I
not
don't
a
know
true
why, but I
fan.
thought that was really
I
cool.
can't say her nail polish is like where my focus was.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know she had nail polish.
Yeah, she has dark purple, like burgundy nail polish. It's really pretty.
Really pretty. I mean, so, um,
We'll get to
So-
that. We'll get to her wearing the tank top in episode 3 later.
where were we?
We were talking about Sabine's design and kind of her introduction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of our introduction, should we just address the elephant wing in the room?
The elephant wing. All right.
I'll let y'all talk about that. 'cause
Star
I
Wars
did not
canon
care.
is riding a thin fucking line here, boys. The E-wing is canon. I don't hate the design because it doesn't have the gun over the cockpit currently. But the instant that fucking gun gets added over the cockpit, we're rioting.
I do feel like you should probably just like I know you don't do much editing to these, but just simply provide an image of what it looks like with the gun
Legends
on it, so
E-wing,
people
yeah.
understand how stupid it is.
All right. So you know the ship from the show that Sabine slides under, right?
Jesus, Harold.
I'm not fucking editing this shit. I don't want to go in here and find it later.
I'm finding the image for you right fucking now.
Yeah, but I have to go put it in later, you fucking dingus.
We all know that Justice doesn't like to edit more than he absolutely has to.
Goddamn
No,
right.
I don't think you had to say anything beyond edit. Like everything after that's everything after the word edit in that sentence was just extra and unneeded. He just doesn't like to edit.
Real.
As you said, the only time I go back into these things is when I accidentally pull something up on the monitor and it fucks up the overlay that I have going. Because there are a few times I've accidentally opened fucking Google Docs or something, and I'm like, yeah, do people really need to see what I'm working on in my spare time? I don't think so.
But yes, there is a stupid ass blaster cannon above the cockpit that gets that should get in the way of the canopy opening, but it doesn't because it just disconnects from the goddamn ship.
Yeah.
Also, let's not forget that every single time the pilot would fire the weapon, it would flashbang them.
Who cares about it?
Pilots don't need to see. That's what they've got targeting computers for. That
Real.
don't work because they'll shoot with or without a firing solution.
Bah.
So, at least the E-wings in canon don't have the cannons up top.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're
actually a
watching
good.
Disney.
It's actually a good ship design without the cannon on top. Honestly, it makes me wonder though. If we have the E-wings, where were they in the sequel trilogy?
Good question.
I know why we didn't see them. Well, it's like an out-of-universe reason. It's because Disney moment. But now you gotta explain why they weren't there in-universe.
My best guess is that when the New Republic demilitarized, a good deal of their fighters went with it, and the Resistance just chose the X-Wings over the E-Wings.
Yeah, but they're already mostly demilitarized. That's the thing. Is they're done already. They're not done, but they're done.
I will point out that technically, by going straight to Sabine's introduction, speaking of the New Republic military, we did skip over Hera's introduction.
Oh, that's true. We did.
Oh, yeah.
Because technically Ahsoka goes to Hera first.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have much to say about that scene other than yay, Hera Syndulla being cool.
It's very much bog standard military character introduction, which is a bit disappointing. Because I don't think Hera Syndulla is bog standard military character.
Military
She
mommy.
also, last time we saw her, other than in a quick epilogue, we saw her just lose her husband and she was pregnant. I feel like that kind of changes people, especially when you are a general. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal that she wasn't acting like quote unquote normal Hera because it felt like a natural character evolution for me.
I'm siding with Marin
I-
on this here.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying I was a little disappointed, but I didn't say I didn't understand or agree with the decision.
I misinterpreted what you said. Then I apologize.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, no, there was no sides to be taken here, and I would have, if I had another second to continue, I probably would have said as much. I just didn't quite have the time to actually formulate my statements. But that's on me
Don't
for being
take
slow.
pauses that are so damn long.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I know. I was going to pause to let other people speak
You,
while I
you
put it together.
goofball.
Jesus Christ!
I am teasing you.
How dare you?
Look,
How dare you?
I do
Not-
think
Not while we're live, Marin.
I do think that it's maybe it's a bit of a reduction of her character to have her just as the cliche military person. Although I think that kind of gets broken a little, especially in the next episode.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh yeah.
like I think your intro, the frame of reference that I'm going for this, and Donovan and I had a slight conversation about this, was that imagine being somebody who's never interacted with any of these characters before, because it was said that this show you wouldn't have to have watched some of the other shows to like come into. And so I feel like you see Hera episode 1, if you've not watched Rebels, well, yeah, you're gonna see her as it's just Ahsoka's military friend.
Yeah, military context.
Yeah.
And I mean, that seems to be the role she's filling in this story for the most part. So, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no gripes with her introduction. I didn't feel like it was remarkable. I didn't feel like it was terrible. It was pretty good. I don't know. Cool Hera.
I enjoyed Hera's introduction as well. I probably shouldn't say that. We've got plenty of episodes in the future. By plenty, I mean 5, in which we can see more of her.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say what I was originally gonna say.
I'm also going to going back to the topic of Sabine. I apologize for just yanking us around. I'm going to correct one of my previous statements. There is a bunch of establishing information that she is an artist, and that is the graffiti on the walls of her home that is visible, especially when she's watching the holo recording of Ezra.
That's true.
Which I did have a question about. We'll talk about this whenever we get to episode 2, because it's more. You see more of her spot in episode 2.
Yeah, you asked me this question.
Graffiti that I'm a bit confused by.
And I didn't have an answer for you because I didn't remember and I didn't open the episode back up. I still think it would have been important to see her doing something because, like,
yeah,
because I mean, there's this giant mural. Yeah, that's hers, but you wouldn't know that coming into the show.
Yeah, we all have the context of having seen Rebels and Clone Wars before, and so it's automatically we can't be like, oh, this is what everybody would think, because not everybody you
Yeah.
know, knows previously that Sabine is an artist, or knows that Hera was, Ghost Crew, know that they all kind of work together, other than a couple of mentions of it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it would look like to watch for a person that has not watched Rebels or Clone Wars.
Yeah, and like the inclusion when she's going when Sabine's going through her things to get out that holo recording, just the inclusion of the little, like, what was it called, Phoenix Squadron, right, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just that logo inclusion just feels like it's just an Easter egg, like it's not actually important, despite the fact that that was she was part of that group.
I mean,
Mhm.
they're a driving force of the plot.
Yeah.
That they are. I do think though that you can gauge everybody and their role in these first few episodes pretty well without because Ahsoka has her moment where she talks about Anakin, and
Yeah.
that's done, I think, for people who don't watch the animation, and it's like, oh shit, that's who she is. Sabine as a Mandalorian who has some tie to a Jedi somehow. The offhand mentions of Ezra. Um, so far, and Hera's military Andy. So far, that's all we really need to know.
Mhm.
Like, that's all you absolutely need to know. But my God, does Rebels help a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think it would have been nice to see Sabine airbrush something, because I think her
Mm.
being an artist is very important when the villain they're dealing with deals with art.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess
that's
since we
always,
haven't
yeah.
seen Thrawn, I just don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know anything.
True,
I
you
Also,
do
what
not
the
know
fuck is the
anything.
name of Sabine's little Loth cat? Because I need to know that. Star Wars, give me a fucking name for that cat, because she just left that thing behind.
It's
I need
Kanan.
to know.
Don't worry, it knows how to work an elevator.
But yeah, I'm kind of, as we're talking, I'm going back through episode 1 through some of the scenes. Looking back through, seeing what I find. But yeah. Do we want to talk about Sabine and Ahsoka and their master and apprentice relationship, considering the first episode is called Master and Apprentice?
There's some
I
fuck shit
mean,
going on. I did not expect them to um actually do anything with the characters between Rebels and Ahsoka. Like, I didn't expect them to be like, yeah, Sabine and Ahsoka had this whole additional master and apprentice relationship that we as the audience, whether we've seen Rebels or not, are learning about for the first time.
Yeah.
I'll let you speak, Sonata. You wanted to say something.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like considering how hard it's being pushed in the narrative, we don't got a choice but to talk about it. And to kind of
Yeah.
put on to what Justice is talking about, I didn't expect them to go in that direction either necessarily, of just there is a time period where there is a noticeable lack of, like, the best word I can
Rebels.
think of is like representation, where something happened between the events of Rebels and this show, and the only insight we have into these events is the dialogue between these characters.
I suppose if we're talking about the master-apprentice relationship, which, I mean, before I go into this other point, it feels... both reactions to the old relationship feel in character.
Oh,
Ahsoka
yeah.
walked away because she wasn't ready and didn't want to inflict that on Sabine and all that fun shit. Sabine, not happy about that, all that fun shit.
Yeah. And realistically resenting her for it, I feel.
Yeah. But then there's an important thing here. I guess actually I can wait to bring it up until episode 3 because that's when it really
Three's where
comes
it
up.
matters.
Three's
Yeah.
where it matters, so
Mm.
we'll wait until we get to that point. Actually,
Yeah. But
next, Badoo. My apologies. You may continue.
No, you're good. I thought it was very in character, specifically for Ahsoka to be the one to leave Sabine. To be like, nope, this isn't working. No more. Because Ahsoka, I mean, she, in the best and worst ways possible, Ahsoka has a habit of avoidance.
Yeah, she's pretty good at walking away from people.
Yeah,
I
she's,
mean,
whether it be for
yeah.
her selfish reasons or for viable ones, she has a tendency to walk away. And so I did not, I was totally fine with and thought it was a good choice to have, instead of Sabine
Mhm.
being angry at Ahsoka for being a poor teacher, it was more Ahsoka realizing that it wasn't working and cutting it off there.
Well, you gotta
Like,
think.
to be fair, we don't know what happened. She could have incorrectly thought that it wasn't working.
Yeah,
That's what was implied, I think, was that it was more
Ahsoka thinking that it wasn't working.
Sabine being a Mandalorian and not the easiest to train. Look at the Darksaber episode, for instance. Like, it took a bit
Yeah.
for Kanan to get through. And that required a change in approach from both of them. And so I think a similar situation happened, whereas Kanan kind of had Hera to talk him through that and get him to shift his position a little. Ahsoka kind of just walked away, and Ahsoka, she's got valid reason to fear literally anything, because
Yeah.
all things considered, she's been sitting on the knowledge that Anakin's Vader for not as long as like anyone else that knew, because she has that weird time skip in Rebels. The world, or like, it's I guess not really a time. I don't know what happens there because she kind of just
Blip.
fucks
We'll
off
call
for the
it a
rest of the
blip.
show. But like, so she learns. She doesn't learn until season 2 of Rebels.
Yeah.
She and so with that, it's like you get it in Mando where it's like, yeah, she's very clearly perturbed by Grogu having attachments because, well, she damn well knows about Anakin and Padme. Like,
Oh yeah.
if anybody's got reason to fear it, I think it's her, because she understands being trained by somebody that caliber, what it would mean to permit unorthodox Jedi, and that's she's kind of prickly and maybe a little stingy at times because she really doesn't want to screw up. Which interesting.
I think that's partially kind of because of, realistically, after she got pulled out of the blip, probably hung out with Ghost Crew for a little bit, she probably has only had Hu Yang for quite a while. And Hu Yang is, like, you know...
He's interesting company.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna make a prediction here. It might be bold, it might not. I'm not sure. I'm predicting that Ahsoka's hesitancy and snippiness
I like that.
towards yes, of course you would. Towards Sabine in training is going to result in Sabine trying too hard, overextending, and her first actual success being the Force. Being the Force. With
Whoa.
the Force being using the dark side. Because she's so... I fully anticipate, the Mandalorian and Sabine being so desperate to prove herself and afraid to fail that she just
Dips into it.
taps into that fear, yeah. And that's what actually gets her over the door. And with that, I've started breaking into that other conversation I wanted to hold off on. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do
I
we?
mean,
I'll stop
Okay.
that
It's a
thought
solid
there.
theory.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about what else happened in episode 1 so we can kind of keep it concise.
I think
How
that's
about that
Um,
duel between Sabine and Shin?
woo, first
Yeah.
live
I did.
action woman and woman lightsaber duel.
Yo. I did not expect Sabine to get shish kebabbed. I was
I'm
like, oh shit,
sick
okay.
and I am sick and motherfucking tired of people getting shish kebabbed in Star Wars and living.
Hey, Qui-Gon Jinn, he's rolling in his grave.
To be completely honest, just from my standpoint, also I found a picture of Sabine's chipped nail polish.
Yep.
Sabine was stabbed kind of over to I watched a video on this. Sabine was stabbed
Uh-huh.
over to the side. It wasn't as severe as a wound. It cauterized itself. Qui-Gon was stabbed through the fucking spine. I
Yeah,
think that's a little bit more than yeah.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah,
people
I
getting
know.
shish kebabbed in Star Wars and not having a lot of
it's
effects is rough.
it's less valid of a complaint here than it was in Kenobi, where you watch two different characters just get literally skewered like in the same spot as Qui-Gon did. And then you can kind of roll it past as like, it's dark side or whatever, and it's fine. Like it doesn't matter. It's fucking Star Wars. Like
Yeah. I didn't particularly mind that. I just did not expect it. I was like, oh shit, she just got shish kebabbed. Like I knew she was gonna be fine. I was like, oh, okay,
see,
cool.
Sonata and I expected it because we read the leaks.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we
No, I stayed away from trailers, leaks, whatever else. Yeah, none of it.
Sonata and I are kind of the mindset where we're like, oh, we'll look at the leaks to see if that happens or not. How airtight is Disney's ship?
Alright.
Well, when you send out the episodes early to certain people to review, yeah, you're gonna get a few holes.
Okay.
and most of those holes are going to spoil the entirety of episode 2 in hindsight.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So
Now that we've basically reached the end of episode 1, I need to make a minor storytelling gripe known.
Yeah.
MacGuffins
Hmm.
are cool. I love my goobers, my maps that lead to other galaxies.
Mhm.
I do have a question though, just one tiny little question. Why does that map exist? Has this exact situation happened before? Have we had people grabbed by Purgle and yeeted to other galaxies, and then they made a map about it so it didn't happen again?
No, they're just charting Purgle migratory routes. That is the one piece of information we got from episode 3 that I don't think we knew. Was that this was a standard, like, the route that they took, the reason that they're... I think Morgan Elsbeth is making a massive assumption here, right? And that, well, we have this other galaxy that Purgle migrate to and from. Thrawn was
Thrawn
whisked
must be there,
away
yeah.
by Purgle, so by default he must be there.
But my
If you're-
follow-up question is, if this is just space whale migration routes, why the fuck was there this giant puzzle to not only obtain the map but also unlock it?
I think
Because the Night Sisters
And
be
beyond
paranoid.
that, you have to also, it seems like, activate it in a very specific spot to actually get the information out of it. The existence of this map seems very contrived to me.
I guess we'll
Enough
see.
that it's making my MacGuffin senses. MacGuffins work best when they make sense, and this is pushing it for me. We'll see how
It's
things
always-
pan out, but
Because I expect there's
things
more
are
to the
always better when
galaxy
they make
than...
sense. I feel like that's just kind of a baseline.
Well, my counterpoint to that is the Force doesn't make sense, and the Force is a MacGuffin.
It's a soft magic system.
Yeah, I mean the Force isn't supposed to make sense.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably something special, especially in the Force department in that other galaxy, that caused ancient Force sensitives to map this shit out. Because the Jedi, um, I got my own like topic to talk about when it comes to this whole other galaxy and Purgle hyperspace routes, but that's episode 3 talk. But yeah, no, it's. I don't want to cast my judgment on it yet because we do have 5 more episodes which can explain what's out there and why the map might be created. But I see where your point's coming from, and I understand your point completely. Yeah. It does. Yeah.
My other thing is, the implications seem to be, I forget the name of the planet that no, I can talk about this when that planet comes up, when we get to episode 3. I can talk about that part of it, but there is a continuation of it, but I don't want to just jump ahead to episode 3 to make more complaints.
All right, we've reached the end of episode 1. Some to talk about episode 2, which I believe starts after Sabine was shish kebabbed, and now she's in the hospital.
In the medical bay. They just kind of have a conversation.
Oh, to be shish kebabbed by Shin. What a life.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, she took the map. Oh yeah, this is what the map had, by the way. That's about it. Just kind of explanatory. Yeah, to Corellia.
To Corellia.
Where Harold gets more screen
first
time.
There's a scene where...
Yeah.
Well, first, actually...
There's a villain
Morgan.
scene.
Yeah. That's where we get funny Morgan reveal.
Dathomirian, huh?
Yeah, she's
not pale enough.
Of Night Sister blood, apparently. Which I think is cool.
It is stated that it's Night Sister ancestors, I believe.
Ancestors.
Not like, so I'm there. She might not be pale enough, but she's which is a weird. No, I'm not going to continue that sentence. Actually,
yeah,
just
smart
know
choice.
Just know that statement was in direct response to Justice also saying that. So,
look, I'm only shitposting. I don't care that. I'm not that specific.
I also don't give a shit.
They didn't spray paint some poor woman white to be a Night Sister. She does have the little tattoos on her forehead.
Yeah, she does have Night Sister tattoos, kind of right on the crown of her head. Also, I'm just looking through my notes about episode 2. First one is remember Reach or some shit.
Remember Reach.
I am ready.
That's not the end of the episode, but still, I just forgot that was my very first note on the episode.
I also just realized that the shit, I wish I could remember the name of the goddamn planet. Because the place that they had to go... Cetos. The map reading place is on Cetos. It's the same trees in the background.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't notice that until now.
Guys, I'm into my head.
Very pretty.
Yeah, it's a good looking planet. I'm just like...
Yeah, so the big juicer magooser this episode, the kind of rundown is Corellia. They're stripping like giant ass hyperdrives. Morgan Elsbeth used to have a bunch of factories on the planet and whatnot that have since been tasked with like stripping down old Imperial ships. Apparently, not catching that somebody's making a hyperdrive for something the size of a super Star Destroyer. Notably because the Republic doesn't use any of those, or ships of that caliber. Um, uh, so Ahsoka and Hera they go party, they go investigate because of some of the HK droids.
Uh,
They
we get
meet
introduced
they meet
to
Taub from House.
Yep.
Sorry.
Uh, he does come up first. I was going to, but he's a minor character. He doesn't count. I was gonna bring up that this is the first live action appearance of Chopper, I believe.
No,
Indeed.
no.
Chopper,
Rogue One.
the
Our favorite war
boy.
criminal.
Rogue One's got you beat. Sorry.
He's in Chop.
Mm-hmm.
Does
He
that
has
really?
a cameo in Rogue One. That's about
But
it.
it's still live action appearance.
Okay, fair enough.
No, but
Okay.
we actually get him doing shit this time around.
Yes, and he looks so good. And my little baby boy, my little baby war criminal. I love him.
Is it
I
weird that I could
love-
understand him perfectly?
I love his introduction because it sets up how crazy he is just perfectly. Because instead of doing as he's fucking told and throwing the goddamn first of all, he's literally picking up and throwing the tracking beacon
Yeah.
onto the ship that's carrying away the hyperdrive.
Yes.
His first concern is, did you go through my stuff?
I love him so
He-
fucking much.
He is just because like every other appearance of droids, they do roughly what they're told. They're not smart asses. They have their priorities relatively straight, but not this guy.
No, Chopper don't
His
care.
pri-
Chopper, fuck.
His priority is, did you touch my shit?
He also
Honestly,
also
mine would be
tells
too.
Hera to shoot down the ship, and she's like,
Over a populated area.
"Yeah," and he goes, "Is that a bad thing?"
It's
God, I love
great.
Chopper.
Definitely. I just figured it'd be worth mentioning Chopper, because hopefully he shows up in more episodes than just this one.
Yeah.
He fucking better.
Well, technically, he did. He was in episode 3 as well.
What?
Yeah,
Alongside the Chia Pet.
playing an active role.
No, he was great. I feel like Corellia. So, a lot of people that I've talked to have had issues with the incompetence of the quote incompetence of the New Republic.
That's
Yep.
the point.
Honestly, to me, it makes sense. It's a government that is trying to. It's a government that once was a democracy. Said democracy failed. They were under an empire or they were under a dictatorship for 30 so years, and now they're trying to go back to democracy. It's going to make sense that they're gonna be weird. It's gonna fuck up sometimes because they don't want to make the same mistakes that their old democracy did, but they still want to keep those principles. And so to me, it makes sense that the New Republic is a little bit incompetent, especially because they're turning from military back into something that actually, is a semi-normal state of the galaxy.
Well, yeah, you look at what happened on Corellia, and it's like, generally, obviously, you can't just like imprison everybody that ever served the Empire ever. Like
Yeah.
that's just, so you're gonna have to reintegrate some of those people, and we've seen kind of, hey, look, here's the normal workers, but some of them still like the Empire. And now this is reaching into Legends a little, but if I remember correctly, Corellia wasn't treated poorly by the Empire, because
wasn't.
they're a shipyard. They built shit, so Corellia was fine.
Like in Solo, we see some of the chop shop kind of shipyards and some of the shittier parts of Corellia, but I think overall, Corellia was fine.
Yeah. Overall, Corellia gets treated alright by the Empire. And so
Well,
that's
they were-
going to lead to Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Especially whenever this New Republic that's coming in is presumably being like, "Hey, you know all the shit you worked on? Take it all apart." I can't imagine too many people are very happy about that.
Certainly not.
Especially when, at the conclusion of taking it all apart, they're not going to have the same demand for starships that they did under the Empire, because
Yeah.
this government is in the process of demilitarizing.
Mhm.
So take it apart and then lose your job.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
But I think the scene works particularly well for me because I can see this happening in real life. Like, yeah, new regime takes over, fails to properly vet the people working in the military-industrial complex, equipment goes missing, equipment is used against the new regime.
I mean, like,
That's just
isn't
how
that
it
like
works.
exactly the plot of Thrawn Treason?
Yeah,
Uh,
actually. I mean, that's not. That's mostly correct.
It's pretty damn close.
I
It's
think the
also,
issue
like-
was that they didn't properly vet the Grand Admiral. I think it's just that Palpatine's fucking dumb. That's just the only other Grand Admiral who recognized it. It was like, yeah, well, I want this shit for myself. I want these for myself. Fuck your stupid little fucking space station ball of death.
Exactly.
I also just want to say, I did find it, like, amusing and somewhat ironic that the New Republic fell victim to the exact same, like, scenario that they inflicted upon the Empire numerous times, where undercover people aid
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
insurgents into
We-
acquiring stuff they shouldn't have.
we know how that stuff works. It couldn't possibly happen to us.
Meh.
Exactly.
That's
That's
how
why.
that's how security companies get hacked. That's how locksmiths fail.
That's why I
Yeah.
really hate the argument that the New Republic is incompetent. Because, of course, it's going to be. They're going to overestimate their abilities and underestimate their enemies. That's
Any
just what
government
happens.
is incompetent. We don't.
Yeah.
And also, the New Republic, at least at this stage, the New Republic also has the excuse of lacking the capability, not just
Yeah.
not just competence. They may have wanted to properly vet all of those workers, at which point they may or may not have found continued Imperial ties to Morgan Elspeth. That being said, they probably did not have the capacity to personally vet every single shipyard worker on Corellia.
Mm-hmm.
So they just had to hope that pay would be enough to keep them loyal.
Yeah. Just swear your loyalty to the New Republic or whatever, get back to work. Your wages stay the same, fuck you, whatever.
And
Like,
and
that's
generally, that'd probably be enough. I mean, you just happen to get some bad eggs, because that will always happen. Oh,
Yep.
well.
Mhm.
But
To say something without saying too much. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. That's going to make me look terrible, but I will tell you guys what that is, because I don't want that on the internet.
I think what happens, what's happening is that
Marin has a bad take. Breaking news, more at 11.
yeah,
Shut up.
essentially, there's like this kind of thing from Legends where I don't think the New Republic was quite as incompetent, even though they were and they weren't. Because like the New Republic, they did stand against Thrawn. They stood at war with the Empire for quite some time, and a lot of people think of them as way more competent in Legends, and I think that's where this like confusion comes from.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are just like, the good guys won, so they have to be like the best at what they do, right? They have to like not, My thing is like, whenever
No,
people
winning
are
the
like,
war
the
is the
New
easy
Republic
part.
needs to be more competent, the New Republic needs to be stronger. Dude, they were taken down in 30 years by the First Order. Like, calm your shit. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah, they are meant to fail.
Yup.
So
Uh,
back on episode 2.
we never left. We were still there.
Yeah.
Our
Republic
topics were
is-
still directly related to episode 2. Don't
Morocco.
you worry, old buddy, old friend, old pal. But yes.
Where are my notes? Oh, I note on episode 2. Sabine looks so good with her short hair. I wish women were real.
I wish Sabine was real.
Was
too.
that the hot
Just
take?
Sabine. I mean,
No,
there was something
that's
hot
just
there.
like a note that I had. What are some other funny ones that I have? Also Teehee, Purgle in the map, I don't know. Also, going back to our episode for predictions about Ahsoka, we were partially right. That was in fact Ezra's saber. Sabine just modded it. We were all kind of right.
Yeah. We were not wrong in, people noticing that there was something different about it. Honestly, when I saw it at first, I thought maybe the prop team just fucked up. That happens. Anakin slash Luke slash Rey's lightsaber changes in every movie. Like there were slight tweaks to it. I wouldn't be surprised if between animation and live action they decided for whatever reason to change the emitter of the lightsaber.
Like,
Shit
to be fair,
happens.
this version of the lightsaber, because like the original lightsaber was designed for Rebels thin blades.
Yeah.
This version of it looks a lot better with the full blade than it would with the thin blade, or than the old one would look with the full blade.
It probably
So-
holds their. Sorry, go ahead.
They probably just changed it to make it look better with the new way that they do lightsabers, and then just did a narrative excuse as to why it's like that.
So that's what I was gonna say is that it probably holds their NeoPixel esque blade like tube of light in there better that they use now. I'm not sure I'm sold on that idea or that way of doing lightsabers yet.
I don't know. What else do I have to say about episode 2? Oh, okay. So in episode 2, you see a bit more of Sabine's head, her spot. She has these like little drawings of weird stacks of like rocks or something. What the fuck are those?
Do you
Because
have
they're
pictures
also
of
in
them?
Ahsoka's. I'm trying to find them, but she has them in her room and also on Ahsoka's ship. Which I fucking love Ahsoka's ship, by the way. It's just like it's odd to me because I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I don't remember what you're talking about. That's why I never answered you about that specifically because I just didn't remember what you were talking about.
I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. Also, mirrors to her putting her armor on and cutting her hair, being like Kanan. I love that.
It was a nice little nod, yeah.
Where the fuck is it?
I think they're more visible in episode 1. When when she's watching the
Yes,
recording of
those.
Ezra.
Yeah, there's like a scene. I don't know. It's it's been a week since I've watched it, but there's like a scene where she's like going through and you can see a couple different versions. Right? What are those? Like, I just want to know what those are and why she draws them so much.
Somebody
Like, I get the
stacking
little
rocks
close
with the
cat, little
Force.
wolves.
You know, that's actually very plausible. I was just thinking, like, that's what Yoda had Luke do.
Eh.
We
So, like I said, Sabine.
yeah.
So we'd stack these rocks. She actually manually picks them up and gives her the middle finger, and
Exactly.
You know, there had to have been
What else?
a Jedi who was just a big enough smartass that they would have done it that way.
Oh,
yeah,
even
it's
if they couldn't
Sabine.
with the Force.
Kidding me?
I'm gonna. Did we just entirely skip the duel on Corellia?
I think we did.
Yeah, we kind of
You-
did. I was about to
yeah,
bring up
you-
the Inquisitor.
You jumped to Chopper, who was like, and him, like, we kind of jumped all over the place, but
Oh yeah, I
did.
forgot Chopper. I
We
forgot
have
Chopper
not-
was after the duel.
He's
Yeah.
My
interspersed.
timeline all mixed up.
So we get
Let's talk about
Maroc.
the Inquisi busy.
He's an Inquisitor.
No, Chopper's before.
You
because
kind of meet him, but you talked about like throwing the tracker and whatnot, and that's
but
during
that's
the duel.
during the trackers
after.
after.
Yeah.
Fun Inquisitor man.
He Inquisitor.
I love
I
his
swear to
armor.
God, if that's Ezra, I'm actually gonna be pissed.
Oh, I'm gonna be funny.
I
I am
it's
legitimately going to be angry.
I think it's impossible for it to be Ezra.
I agree on
yeah,
that
it
point.
had
Because
better
they would've-
fucking be.
Because there's a in order, like, they're building something. We'll talk about that when we talk about episode
Mhm.
3. In order to get to that other galaxy.
I mean, you see bits and pieces
They
of it
would-
in episode 2, which is why my first note is remember Reach or some shit.
Fair enough. But my point still is here. There something else similar would have had been built in the other galaxy to get Ezra here, because Ezra's with Thrawn.
No, he rides the
Yeah,
Purgles
or
around.
Ezra must have fucking mastered Purgle or some shit. Which
I mean, he already
Master
did.
Purgle while also being able to survive in a vacuum for however long it takes, probably
He already
days,
did.
if not weeks, to get between galaxies.
He already did. The viewport of the Star Destroyer was completely broken. He had to have in order to live the first time. Why can't he do it again?
As much as I hate to admit it, Justice is right.
Yeah, I just I've seen so many people bring up that
broken
theory.
viewport
I
does
despise it.
not necessarily mean that the entire atmosphere is gone.
I feel like it would be gone by the time they made it to the other galaxy.
Yeah, so he wouldn't have to be able to maintain survival through a vacuum for the entire travel to the other galaxy.
But if he's done it in any capacity, which he would have, then that means that he could learn to do it longer generally? Just like holding your breath.
I mean, yeah, he could. It's just a matter of will he?
No. No, I think we've safely thrown the Maroc being Ezra theory out of the window.
Straight into the incinerator where it
Yeah.
belongs.
Out of the viewport, if you will.
You have to make the most convoluted argument of, like, the Chimera arrives in this other galaxy. Ezra takes all the Purgo back somehow without the capability of, without any ship to protect him. Which,
And then wants to go back to get Thrawn because he's helping with that.
but
It's going
maybe
back to his friends.
maybe he's playing the deep undercover double agent and he's stalling them.
Nah, you've already done that. They don't have
Yeah,
your
like how
notebooks.
you wrote it.
I like how I wrote it. He wasn't stalling them though. He didn't turn until like halfway through. But I don't
True.
think they're going the route of the Grisk are not going to be mentioned. Should they be mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
they gonna be-
That sounds like
no.
a movie thing to me.
Nah.
Not a show thing. If they do it, it's gonna be a movie thing.
I don't. I think that's gonna be one of those things that's like ever looming in Star Wars, and they're just gonna make Thrawn look like a real dumbass because it never happens. That's
Which I
I
really
think
like. I don't know. Part of me wants that, part of me doesn't. Like,
I think we're very quickly losing the time for it to be narratively relevant with characters that we know, such as Thrawn and
Yeah.
any of the other characters that you'd want to see partake in this, because the Grisk would obviously be very emulatory of the Yuuzhan Vong from Legends, so you'd probably want to see Luke do something. The New Republic do nothing. Um,
Yeah.
eh, but like we're running out of time before it's like, how did the galaxy get invaded by this like previously unknown threat and it not get mentioned like anywhere in the sequels? And I do feel like because the world building of the sequels is kind of bad, you're really stifled with like galaxy spanning events that you can do.
Yeah.
Um,
hmm.
I mean, to
so
be fair, I seem to remember there being talk about stuff being set after the sequels that's in production. Could be in that point somewhere, but at that point, like Thrawn's
that's
entire
yeah.
thing
Thrawn's
is
in his 90s.
yeah.
I think at
Uh,
that
Uh,
point, Thrawn's just fucking dead.
and we can't even guarantee that he's gonna survive this.
Yeah.
yeah, you've prob-
Or
I
survive
don't.
the movie rather, because he's
I
definitely
don't.
surviving the show,
I
which
don't
is
foresee him walking off
Yeah.
the movie.
knowing
I
the movie exists is such a killer for so many of the speculations and theories that I had. Um, I really wish that had never been mentioned to me, but oh
Oops.
well.
yeah, I
Or that just hadn't been
I
revealed yet. Why the
To be
why the hell is
fair,
that revealed? Knowing that there's a fucking movie about this shit coming out, just
kind of takes the tension away.
yeah, I was
yep.
say. To be fair, what it was announced was that it was just a Mandoverse Dave Filoni movie. But at that point,
What
like
else
that's
is it
all
gonna
the
be?
official. Yeah, that's all the official news we've got. But what else would it be?
Okay, it's either
Yeah.
going to be like the final battle against Thrawn, or it's going to be some sort of Mandalorian Civil War bullshit. But that's incredibly overplayed.
Mm.
Yeah. No, it's
There's
gonna be
only
Thrawn.
two options for the Mandoverse.
I swear to God, if in the movie they to reference a show that none of you'll care about, My Hero Academia, if they all for one, yes, I figured,
All right, I'm
if
out.
they
Have
all
fun,
for
guys.
one Thrawn, I'm gonna lose it. If they just like capture Thrawn and just keep him in a cell, instead of,
Huh.
I think
Capture
Thrawn
Thrawn
has
and
to
keep him in a
die.
cell?
Do we have an issue with Thrawn being in a cell, Marin? Is there something you want to tell me?
I don't no entendí. I don't understand. I
That
legitimately think
That's
that
what
for
we did.
that's what we
well,
did.
yeah, that is true. I forgot that. But I think for the logical conclusion of this story of actual canon Star Wars, not your little Justice verse, I
It's the
think that Thrawn
coalition
actually
verse,
has to
thank
die.
you.
It's the what?
The coalition verse, thank
The
you.
coalition verse. Sorry. I
The
I just think
Rimverse.
narratively, I don't think it would be. I guess this might just be me. Thrawn isn't a threat. Thrawn is only no longer a threat when he's dead, and so I think that Thrawn actually has to die. If whether it's gonna happen in the movie with whatever Thrawn's conclusion to his story is, but I don't know. I think Thrawn's gotta die. Which, like, if they write it well, then it's gonna be awesome. If they write it like shit, then it's gonna be shit. So I don't know.
Uh,
As long as it's artistically done, I have no complaints.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
Speaking of dead things, we could probably talk about the giant hyperspace ring.
Yeah.
Remember
Okay.
Reach or some shit. I don't know. Halo reference.
Remember, speaking of dead things, its name is a very its name dropped in episode 2 as the Eye of Sion, and for people who know Legends, that name is very interesting.
Indeed.
Notably because
I
there
don't.
was a character named Scion, and who had,
Hello,
in fact, only one functional eye.
I just looked that up.
Yeah.
For those in the audience who may not know, Scion was the Sith Lord of Pain. He was also called Sleeps with Vibroblades by one of the companion characters in Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Incredibly scarred and deformed. He probably should have died like 20, 30 times over. But his whole like unique force power was literally being too angry to die.
So he's a half orc.
Literally the only way to kill him. Actually, there's like two ways, because Darkseid can just beat the crap out of him enough time that he stops resisting and then just dies, I think. I'm not familiar with Darkseid in that game, though.
That was it.
But
think that's how it
Lightside, you
goes.
literally just convince him to not be mad anymore.
It results in one of my favorite lines where he says, "You will not erode my will," and then you get a pop up on screen that says, "You have eroded Scion's will," um, and you know all these statistical debuffs that happen to him. But yeah, you won't erode his will, but you erode his will.
But notably, because he is found only in Knights of the Old Republic 2, he is a purely Legends character. With the exception of this one reference in this show.
I'm not convinced Filoni isn't just pulling it out of his ass. Like, just a random name.
Yeah, because Darth Plagueis isn't canon, is it?
Plagueis is... The
The
book?
book
novel.
is not.
The
No.
novel.
I was about to say the character,
I
Well,
certainly hope the
obviously
character
he's-
is.
No, because I'm looking through his appearances, and I don't know what all is canon and what all isn't.
well, if you're looking at his
in
if you're looking at the Wikipedia page,
It says
and there's not a
Legends, but,
canon
you know,
tab, if there's
I'm
not a
just
canon tab, he's
double-checking.
not canon.
I'm just double checking. Okay.
How dare you
Also,
double check?
props to Kevin Kiner for the music. Holy shit, the music has been continuously blowing me away.
Agreed.
half-
Music's fantastic so far.
It sounds enough like Star Wars to still definitely be like, yo, this is Star Wars music, but it is unique enough to be like, oh fuck yes, new Star Wars shit. You're not hearing the Force theme all the time. You're not hearing the fucking Imperial March every 4 seconds. You're not hearing weird ass music cues for no reason. There are multiple video essays that I can send to all of you about why sometimes the music in Star Wars is kind of dog shit.
Are we talking
This show,
mainline
though,
Star
I feel
Wars?
does really well. In some of the sequel movies, the music placement is very odd. But most of the time, Star Wars does really, really well with this music, and
Also,
Kevin Kiner
you
is up
say
par.
that you know you don't hear like the Force theme. No, but you do get slammed with the two main characters' motifs like 80 times. Shut up, Cat.
You were talking to me for a second. I thought you were like, "Shut up, Marin."
I will tell you to shut up. No, you hear. There were a lot of times where I was like, "Oh wow, it's that motif again." Yeah.
I am just. It sounds like Star Wars, and it makes me happy.
Oh, the dark side options for defeating Scion is just wearing him down but being an asshole about it. Cool.
Yeah, I
It's
think
exactly the same result.
yeah. I do think it's funny though that their strategy, and this takes us into episode 3, is that they're just building a big hyperdrive ring. Now I also think it's funny that they had to scan the fucking thing to figure that out. I figured that out last episode looking at it. I watched
He didn't have to scan it. They did in fact call out that they're pretty sure it's a giant hyperspace ring. Hu Yang just wanted to see if there were any secrets.
I just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yang
So
was
we
just
I
that-
love Hu Yang.
so we
I
flew
love
straight
Hu
at
Yang
it.
so much.
Straight.
Okay.
Hu Yang is that
So-
one player in every campaign who's just like, no, we need more information. We need more information before we
Yeah,
act.
yeah.
Oh, so you.
Correct.
Anyway, so here is my. I'm going to go on a tangent about this episode, and I think we all are.
I'm ready.
Here we go.
This episode goes basically straight into a starfighter battle. And a starfighter battle that drags on for about
Isn't it like 10 minutes?
About way too long.
way too fucking long. 'Cause yeah, it's like 10 minutes of starfighter battle, 10 minutes of bum rushing through turbo laser fire, and then 10 minutes of Purgle. So yeah, probably about 10 minutes, probably about 5 minutes longer than it needed to be, including 3 strafing runs from the bad guys that are literally the same shot of bolts striking the exact same spot on Ahsoka's ship every time, and no matter what, like, it takes like 10 minutes of sustained blaster fire from these starfighters to bring down the shields on something that is smaller than the Millennium Falcon. Whereas the Falcon shields went down like that every single time it was
Oh,
shot. Apparently, Ahsoka's ship is invincible! Except for when it's not.
Yeah, the Falcon's also been described to be like a piece of shit.
I don't think I've seen a ship in Star Wars as tanky as
As Ahsoka's though.
Ahsoka's shuttle.
That's the thing. It then transitions from that starfighter battle into doing effectively the Death Star trench run in open space, straight to. But instead of trying to avoid the turbo laser emplacements, it's flying straight at them and just tanking them all. Until the
Yeah.
exact moment when the plot says, okay, you got what you need, time to suffer consequences.
Also, I
That
have a couple of gripes about a specific part of the of that. Specifically, whenever Ahsoka gets out of the shuttle, like in the spacesuit, she looks
Are you-
fine.
Are
Like,
you also going to
what?
gripe about reflecting the Starfighter's blaster bolts?
No, what I was
I
going to
don't
complain
care about
about is
that.
the fact that I could have animated Ahsoka better.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That is shots fired, but I don't disagree.
Look, okay, look, whenever she is like I understand animating zero graph is hard. I am literally currently in the production of a game where you are underwater in a technically zero graph environment.
Why did you do that to yourself?
Animating that is difficult, but I feel like whenever you are working for Disney and you have the best animator, you have the best VFX, 3D and 2D animators on the planet working for your company, you can do better than this. I'm sorry. You could have spent a couple more bucks. You're Disney. You're Star Wars. You are the most like fucking big kahuna money-making thing on the goddamn planet. You can afford to spend a little bit more on the character model and the rigging and the animation for that scene because it was dog shit. I am sorry.
For context, they run through this gamut of turbo laser fire, which they should have died from like 3 or 4 times over. The ship breaks precisely when Hu Yang gets the data he needs. Hu Yang also coincidentally shuts down and like overloads or something exactly at that moment, and then takes approximately 10 minutes for his quote-unquote battery backup to turn on. At which point, Ahsoka's like, well, we're dead in the water. There's 2 more spaceships coming at us. I'm gonna get out on the hull and deflect the shots, be a distraction, while Sabine gets it fixed. That concept alone, I don't hate. Starfighter cannons are just mobile E-webs. This seems impressive, but not excessive. Except for the shitty animating.
Like, there are some parts that are animated really well. Like, there's this part where she kind of does like a flip over it. That was fine. It's just, I noticed it really specifically. I'm literally getting up because I'm so peeved about this. I am
Well,
standing.
I've been standing since we started talking about episode 3.
Oh no.
Oh,
I've
it's
actually been standing
like-
since the Eye of Sion conversation started, but
There's,
I
like-
digress.
There's this part where she turns around with both of her sabers, and it just, oh my god, it looks like something that was out of like an early like an early 3D PlayStation game, just with better poly count.
So
I think
The
it's-
we can
episode
all
overall,
agree.
I didn't mind. It's just that really
No.
fucking bugged me.
I'm gonna say this episode sucked. I give this episode a fucking 2 out of 10.
Really?
And then
This
I
episode
need to
was
go back and watch
pointless
it,
and
'cause Then
bad.
again, I watched this episode after watching an episode of Star Trek: The New Generation. So
I would have rather
anyway,
watched that.
after Hu Yang shuts off and the ship shuts off, and they get it all fixed, and then they make for the planet to escape. At which point there's a fairly decent chase scene, again that runs way longer than it needs to, of them trying to escape using Purgle, for first live action appearance of them that I'm aware of.
yes,
Just like
Other
in
than
atmosphere
little bit
of the
Mando.
planet, and just using them as cover, and it's a fairly interesting environment that they're flying through because of it. And it's just, I'll say at least the bad guy fighter designs are interesting, but then they lose them, they land. They take a little bit of a rest, and then the episode just unceremoniously ends with Balin Skull going, "Oh, they landed. You should go find them."
I think
I also think we're skipping the majority of the episode. Where
no,
there's
that
the
is
fighting scene.
Marin. That is literally
Well,
3/4
that
of the
is true.
episode.
The majority of the episode is that fucking fight, but I mean, there's a lot more to the episode. At least to me,
There's a
that is
little bit more.
action set piece.
Oh right, we completely skipped the training scene. That's just a complete retread of everything that we've already been told.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
about to say.
About the only thing that I gotta say about that training scene is that I guess we're going for anybody can use the Force if they try hard enough. That's where we seem to be going.
Which I really don't want that to be the case. I want Sabine to not be. I don't want that. If Sabine is force sensitive at all, I want her to be the equivalent of Han in Legends. I don't want
Thank
her.
you.
Yeah,
I don't.
Effective,
I don't want her
able
to be able to
sense the Force,
do all
but
the
not
Jedi
use it
shit.
consciously. Yes, thank you.
I don't know if I hate the idea of someone being able to
will
use
themselves
the
into being better at the Force.
well, because as they say, the Force does reside within all living things. It would make sense. It's
there-
just yeah, I don't know.
There is also Hera talking to the whole, advisory board, which just is repeating these. Again, it's a retread of, hey, the New Republic's kind of bad at its job right now.
Yeah,
Again,
it just gives.
We just had an entire episode about that. We don't need that hammered in. So
We did need the denial of the Republic helping what I'm just calling Ghost Crew find Thrawn. We did need that, but we didn't need all of the extra fluff.
Yeah, we could have come in media res at the end of the conversation with Mon Mothma saying no, with flanked by these senators, and then staying behind after the others leave the call, saying, "Hey, I understand what you're coming from, but I can't let I can't let what I think may be just a personal quest to get Ezra back sacrifice New Republic resources and shit like that." And that would have worked just as well, but would have taken 2 minutes, as opposed to how long does this scene run? Approximately 7 minutes. About 5 minutes.
The only thing I think that, like, even this episode is still a continuation of the first in a way is that they've done tasteful cameos. Because we got Kazuda Xiono's dad, the Hosnian Prime Senator, in this episode. Shout out to the Star Wars Resistance gang. You guys are eating so good today.
Oh, God.
He's the senator for Hosnian Prime and the dad of the main character in Star Wars Resistance. And then we had Jai Kell and Ryder Azadi in the first episode. So far, we've gotten tasteful cameos, I think. That haven't been.
The one thing
Yeah.
I will say, like, Dave Filoni has been like, yeah, you don't need to watch any of the other shows going into this. I feel like for some things that's true, for some things that's false. For one of the instances that is false, Jason, he has a good cameo, but if you have not watched
Who the
Rebels,
fuck is
Yeah.
that
I feel
kid?
like you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Who the fuck is that
like,
kid?
So-
they're like,
Kanan
oh, she has
Jarrus
a
who?
kid. Who's
Yeah.
his dad? Does this
I
matter to the
watched-
plot at all? You know.
I watched this episode with two people who A, had not seen the first two episodes, but B, all they've watched is mainline Star Wars. First off, it was fucking hilarious to jump back to the hyperspace ring for a second. They knew what it was when they saw it right away. Like, I thought that was funny that there's such an insistence on scanning it in the episode just in case, and I was like, man, even these guys know. And then there were several Among Us jokes when Ahsoka was out in space, especially when she floats in front of the cockpit. Yeah, when she floats in front of the cockpit, she was ejected. No, but they looked at that kid and went, "What the fuck? That's not her kid. That doesn't look right." And I was like,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, yeah.
Especially,
He looks good at least. He doesn't look like a fucking Geopet anymore. So
Yeah. That child, Jason Syndulla, this version of him that we see in the show could very well just be adopted as opposed to being her biological child.
yeah. Especially because
That's just a green-haired human.
Why?
Which is good because I didn't like how they made him look.
Yeah.
It was
I gotta ask, though, why does green Twi'lek skin translate to green human hair?
I don't know. For me,
That's a
it's
question
just
to
like
ask the biologists.
we've seen human Twi'lek hybrids before. That's what Sula Quain's kids are. They are confirmed half human. They aren't Hutt's kids, but they are confirmed half human. I don't know where Jason came from. Jason just looks fucking weird.
I don't know
Are we
why they.
absolutely certain he's not just an adopted green-haired,
Well, no, because
just
Sabine
a
says we
green-haired
all know what his
human.
dad was like. No, we do. It is confirmed that Kanan and Hera boned at one point.
Yeah, because didn't she like tell him that she is pregnant whenever he like
No,
dies or some shit?
no,
Oh, I guess I'm
no.
incorrect.
No, we only know because Dave Filoni confirmed it out of universe.
Okay.
Because everybody's like, dude, when did they have the time to fuck in the last season? and he's like, there's some time during one of the season 4 episodes where everybody else is away where they probably could have gotten away with it.
Also bold of you to assume they wouldn't just do it anyway and not care if people heard.
No, that's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, Jason as a whole, he looked weird in Rebels. Like in live action, he looks good. He just doesn't look like her kid.
Yeah,
So-
I hope they talk about it more.
Because
Um,
Yeah.
I just want to give a brief summary of this episode real quick, so people understand why we all universally dislike this episode. We start with a retread of previously given information, move into another retread of previously given information, which leads to a drawn-out lead-up to a way too drawn-out space battle, leading to a very improbable series of events that are also way too drawn-out, leading to a really drawn-out and not very interesting chase scene, leading to a very anticlimactic, oh, they're here, go find them.
Yeah.
And then the
This
episode just
episode was just like
ends. It just ends on Balin's skull saying, they're in the woods, go find them.
I
just very, very mid. I liked the Ahsoka and Sabine character moments just because I like Ahsoka and Sabine, and I think that they're written relatively well. I mean, it's just like the pacing of this episode was really
Yeah, it just feel.
bad.
I think that training scene would be a bit more forgivable to me if like anything else had happened in the episode that mattered. You know, like, because this isn't spoilers because it's in the fucking trailers, but we know that there's like a whole ass fucking duel coming up, a multi party like Sabine's gonna have her fucking saber out on the planet. Ahsoka and Balin are gonna fight. Um, all of that was shown in the trailers. We could have kickstarted some of this. We could have done more than they land on the planet, and that's the end of the episode. You cut the fucking spaceship segments in half, maybe even cut them down to a quarter of what they were. And I think that because I think what we see next episode is Shin beat the shit out of Sabine and her dark side
Again.
her way into using the force and toppling her. I think that's what that hand outstretched from the trailer was that we talked about when we were theorizing. I think that's going to be her using the dark side to fucking push her, and not absolutely get mollywop the second time.
Mollywop.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to my redeeming points ish about this episode. Like, there's nothing bad. I wouldn't say there's anything bad with the structure of it aside from its pacing. Like, it is still a technically well put together production. It's just I don't like filler episodes. I think we all don't particularly care for episodes that are basically just filler when we're only getting about 5 hours, not even 5 hours of content. It's more like 4.5, because it's an hour-long first episode and the rest are all half an hour. But we do get some new information. Like, we get some characterization for Hera, for some people who haven't seen the show originally, or the show, who haven't seen Rebels. That wanting, caring about Ezra, whoever that is, because there's not much information about him in this show. And also having fought Thrawn before. That's good information for people who haven't seen this before. That's good.
Yeah.
Good on them for providing that information. Characterization about the New Republic. It's not, the problems aren't just on the ground, it's also in the leadership. Cool, I guess. And then indirectly for the three bad guys. The four bad guys that we've seen so far.
Yeah. And the
Because
first time that we've heard the Inquisitor's voice was in this episode.
Yes. But what I'm getting at is they're all willingly working together and they're not fighting like there's no resentment between them really. Like, sure, Shin's taking shots, but that's just rebellious teenager phase, I think. Because the interactions
it's not a
between
phase.
Shin
It's
and
not
Morgan.
a phase.
Transient. Yeah, I know. Transience does not mean impermanent. Or impermanence does not mean inconsequence. Rather, whatever. Don't care. They're Darksiders that are all willingly working together, which is rare. And also, by any measure, Shin failed. I feel like, and to be fair, we haven't seen it happen yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, because the episode ended rather abruptly. Shin failed. Were Balin Sith? I feel like we would have just gotten the ending scene being Balin punishing Shin for failure, as opposed to just sending people into the woods to go find the others.
He's a very
Which is-
pragmatic evil. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not pure evil like we've seen dark side force users in the past be, and that's very interesting to me, and a lot of kudos for making something that's relatively unusual for force users in Star Wars.
I
Yeah.
That
also
being
gotta
said,
say,
my other gripes still apply.
and this kind of goes for specifically Balin's character, kind of just overall across these 3 episodes. He does feel like a Jedi of old, I guess, you know, as they'd be seen. Like, especially the way he talks in his intro. I really enjoyed that because he really did feel like somebody who used to be a Jedi.
Oh yeah.
And I it's very clear that he's not forgotten what he was, you know, with that comment about you know, it would be a shame to kill Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if they plan on playing him as like, oh, he's not actually that evil. You know, maybe there's a chance the heroes can redeem him, kind of story, or they're just going for a different type of villain. I don't know if I would hate either one of those, honestly. I think both could work.
Hmm.
Even if they don't turn him, because sometimes you just can't turn back everybody. And sometimes
Yep.
you're not the right person to turn them back.
Yeah. You want to know what I just realized about Morgan Elsbeth?
Yeah.
Earlier on, you mentioned the fact that she's kind of akin to Cersei, where she thinks she's as good as her betters, but she isn't actually.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I think she's more like Ronan from Thrawn Treason, where she just holds her successor to such a high pedestal that she's mimicking him both consciously and self-consciously, and also just being a dick about it. I don't know. I've also just been reading Thrawn Treason, so
Imagine reading.
yeah, I know. I'm reading Thrawn Treason and listening to Master and Apprentice.
I'm
It's-
not
it's a
allowed to
time.
talk what I've been reading. I've already cashed in my one Game of Thrones for the episode.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I'm getting less Cersei and more Ronan from her.
My question is, and I hope the show does go over this, where the connection between the two of them begins,
Yeah.
because this almost feels like just some really weird. She's just a really weird Thrawn stan.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because if she doesn't have any like connection where like she knew him before he disappeared,
I'm gonna
this
be
is
peeved if that's the case.
Yeah. What? Like, why is she looking for him? Like, why?
Yeah.
I do want to say some of the dialogue in the Mando episode where she is featured, as well as somewhere else, though I can't remember exactly where, it is implied that Morgan and Thrawn have worked together in the past at some point.
Yeah, I'm just curious what about. Was it
Yeah.
like Thrawn was, I don't know, or kind of early in his tenure as, you know, whatever on the Chimera, he was doing something with Dathomirians and he found some Dathomirian art shit and she helped her out with it or something. Or Night Sister, I should say. Something like
this the way simpler answer is he needed parts for his defenders.
Yeah, that
That-
is true
that
because
tracks.
that's like her thing.
And if that's all it is, that's fine. I think. I don't know that I want her to just be a Thrawn stan. Although I think that'd be kind of funny. It's just like Yeah, I've heard about this guy. We're gonna go track him down. But I mean, that's
Hear me
almost
out, hear me out. Hear me out.
yeah.
She's not a Thrawn stan. She's a Thrawn simp.
Oh, we already got one of those. We're full up on the
Sonata,
quota.
Yeah.
someone else has joined the club.
I don't think I want her in my club.
Wait, you got a problem with Night Sisters? They're an endangered species, Sonata. That's kind of weird.
Rude.
Yeah, well,
No,
maybe they're
it's-
endangered for a reason.
But I mean,
Yeah, that reason is doo-doo.
I could see them being. I could see her being a Thrawn simp in a way where it's like, oh, if I go find him, I've secured my place in the Return of the
new
Empire.
regime. Or whatever.
And then in the regime
Because-
that is to come.
Because that's why Balin and Shin seem to be, you know, when we find Thrawn, we find power.
Yeah.
Balin's original role is just to kill Thrawn. That's what the intent was to be. He he was a Rook. He's simultaneously Jorah Sabath and Rook.
I do want to point something out real quickly.
Mhm.
That's about the conversation between Balin and Shin in that moment where he says, like, when they're discussing what will happen when they find Thrawn. Someone else pointed this out to me, so I can't say it was a discovery I made for myself, but Shin almost seems disappointed by that answer.
I don't know. She just seemed kind of empty-headed to me.
That's just Shin, though.
Yeah.
I feel like Shin doesn't seem like the most intelligent person to me. I think that she was young whenever Balin took her in, and he trained her, and she's like a loyal lapdog to him, but there's not much more than that.
I wonder if this,
Like,
you know how RBF is a thing? I almost wonder if she
Yeah,
just
it's
doesn't
just
have resting
stupid
confusion
RSS.
face. Because this kind of reminds me of. Alright, sorry guys, I'm doing it again. This reminds me of Kit Harington in Game of Thrones as Jon Snow.
Oh my
Sometimes,
You're not wrong.
sometimes
Just kinda has
he just
resting
looks lost.
We gotta get a picture of it. We gotta get a picture of it.
Oh, in season 8 especially, he looks lost, but I think everybody was lost by then. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We can't.
I'm
I'll
getting
be
a
here.
picture of it just so Sonata can see what we're talking about. But I think in Shin's case, it's a makeup thing. The eyes are her eyes. The actor's eyes innately seem to be just very wide open and just prominent on her face, for better or worse. And
Yeah.
on top of that, she's
All for
wearing
better.
dark makeup, which is just making her eyes stand out more and look more open. So it looks to me like she's always just staring off, being incredible, looking at things wide-eyed and confused. It's nothing against the actress, nothing against the makeup department. I think it's just a quirk of how they've chosen to do it.
Hmm.
I do appreciate the photo that's incoming, by the way. Because I have no idea what the fuck is being discussed right now.
I'm trying to find a good shot of
here we go.
Shin with her expression.
So Sonata, this is a example of Kit Harington just looking confused.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, to be fair, no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna get into it. I don't want to waste more time talking about Game of Thrones, but he had reason to be like genuinely kind of confused there.
Oh yeah. I remember. I remember
The
seeing
context.
snippets.
But like, no, he's got kind of resting confusion face. You know, I'm interested in them, to say the least. Like I have This Inquisitor though is not really juice on my juicer so far.
I
I
I
feel
like
like
his
they're like
armor.
trying to build up an air of no, he looks cool, and they're trying to build up an air of mystery around him because he's got
he's got a
for
helmet.
Star Wars fans, like people who have done research or whatever, they know that his name is not just his own name. Um, uh, and the fact that he's a masked character implies that he will be unmasked at some point. That's how masked characters that are given screen time work. Um, Especially whenever they are the only notable character who has not shown their face on screen yet. And they're like trying to kind of, I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're gonna be like, oh, he was just a random dude, instead of somebody important or someone who might have a connection or something.
I do know that
Funny.
prior to some things being confirmed, a bunch of people theorized that Merrick was actually Barris.
God,
Yeah,
fucking,
I've had someone mention that to me, and I'm like, that would be cool, but this is very clearly a man.
Yeah.
I just don't see. I don't see Barris living through the
Yeah,
I
events of
don't
Order
like
see that
66.
either.
make
I'm pretty.
I feel like Vader would make a point of making her death slow and painful.
Yeah. Um.
And especially ensuring her death. There would be none of this stabbing her and then just leaving her on the ground.
Vader doesn't leave people.
Well,
Kills
except
them.
the time he left Reva
Except
on the
the times
ground.
he
Except the
has.
time he
Except
did.
for the
but,
times he
yeah.
has, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, But yeah, episode 3, to me, it was tolerable. The weakest by far thus far. Um,
I was actually like unironically extremely disappointed with the third episode. Like
that's fair.
I came out of it and I was like, damn. The first two episodes filled me with a lot of hope because as a Rebels fan, as a like Rebels glazer, oh my, like I was all over that shit. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing though, haven't seen Zeb yet.
that is true. We have not seen Zeb yet.
We have not seen the entirety of Ghost Crew back yet.
And before
All
we
right.
don't see him.
Sonata, starting with you. I guess we'll start with you and move up. 1 to 10. What's your rating for each episode?
Okay, so episode 1, 7.5 out of 10. Episode 2, 8 out of 10. Episode 3, after further thought, 3 out of 10.
Marin.
For me, first episode, 8 out of 10. Second episode, same, 8 out of 10. Third episode, 4 out of 10. The third episode was fine. Would have preferred it to be a lot better, but I'm definitely not the worst thing out of Star Wars I've ever seen.
Justice.
I think I give the first two somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8. They feel about the same to me. I think the third one is a solid 2 out of 10. Among Us brings it up from a 1 to a 2. And also the really funny scene where Hu Yang turns back on and then they immediately turn him off again.
Oh, yeah.
That shit was so funny.
That is true.
He's like, no, what did I miss? Hold on, standard Jedi protocol.
Dink. It's like, what the fuck, man? Don't bully him. Donovan.
I think episode 1's an 8 out of 10. I think 7 out of 10 for the second episode. I just didn't quite enjoy it as much as the first. And I'm gonna go with a 3 out of 10 for episode 3. It's just I'm sure technically it's probably more of a 4. It's just the disappointment from the difference.
Yeah, you can't really separate that.
Yeah. So that puts us about all. I do like that we're on a consensus here, average is like for the first 2 episodes is 7.5, and for the last one is 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are all
I
on
bring
the
it
same
up.
page.
Justice brings it back down. Y'all keep it even at 3.
So
It is very okay. It was.
I'm less excited for next week than I was excited for this week after that episode. But I've
Yeah.
enjoyed the characters so far. I hope we get to see them expanded upon more as the show continues. I hope that um I hope that they're all given like satisfying character arcs. Um
Mm.
Especially because unfortunately I do think that like Balin's probably he's probably the most interesting at the moment. And I do hope
Yeah.
that um he got something satisfying by the end of the show.
because he's not getting anything more in the he's not getting anything more later because
Mhm.
rest in peace, actor.
Yeah, I was saying Ray Stevenson's been killing it. He feels like a Jedi of old, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, all in all, it's no Book of Boba Fett. I do think Sonata, you're right though. It's no Andor. So I think with the first 3 episodes, I can say that I like the Andor's first 3 episodes more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
They were
Um,
definitely more. You see, I'm gonna be the disagreeing
okay,
one here.
Yeah.
I feel like Andor's first 3 episodes, the first 2 were really slow, and yeah, they were setting up. They were technically excellent and setting up so many payoffs for the later episodes. But I had to sit down and fight through them with how slow they were. I had to have Marin in the room with me to get me to watch past halfway through episode 2 because they just
Yeah.
could not hold my interest.
No, I was like,
The rest
oh
of
god, what was
Andor
I
is
doing?
great, but the first 2 episodes of Andor, I could not bring myself to watch on my own.
I think I
yeah.
was working on like Art Fight or something while we were watching that
Yeah.
together.
See, I understand that, but I think what it comes down to for me is I will take slow episodes that are building something up over this fucking nothing burger that we just got this week.
Yeah.
Any
'Cause
day of the week.
there's
And
not even
that's
really
yeah.
much that it could be setting up. And I'm not
My
saying
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that comparing
Yeah.
the first 3 episodes of Andor to this, yeah, it's still a very favorable comparison for Andor, but it's not that much better. Like there's a disparity. It's not as massive as, in my opinion,
Yeah.
as the rest of you seem to think it is.
And that's why we're here for different opinions. Also, Donovan, you're
Despite the
not
fact that
showing.
we all
Yeah,
have the same opinion most
yeah,
of the time.
you're not showing up to the next podcast, by the way. I don't like your opinion.
Me?
Good.
Huh?
I do not wish to
Aw.
be here.
Speaking of not showing up to the next podcast, I think we're gonna have to say goodbye to Marin because with that comment about them animating better than the Disney crew, the mouse
Oh
is going
yeah,
to sneak into
the
her
House of Mouse
tonight.
will kill
Yeah,
you.
no, I'm
You-
just gonna. There's a red dot in the center of my chest right now.
Are you sure that is not from the laser pointer for your cats?
I am certain both of them are right next to me. Actually, they're kind of flanking me. I feel a little bit intimidated.
Ugh.
They're both loafing in the
The
exact
cats
same
have been
The
direction.
hired
House
by
of
the
Mouse.
mouse to
They
take
hired
you
the
out.
cats. They hired the
I did.
cats.
Susan kind of looks like Mickey Mouse. She's got the white gloves.
You look like Mickey Mouse. Sorry.
I really hope I don't.
Yeah, you might get sued for that. Is there anything
Yeah.
else we wish to say before we depart? Because we have hit the 2-hour mark as of 4 minutes ago.
I'm more excited for episode 4 than I was for like the comparison that I'm making just because it's the most recent to come out is Mando season 3. More excited for this next episode than I was after Guns for Hire, but still not like I'm not like let's fucking go, Ahsoka! It's more like yeah, cool. I guess the next episode can come out, and yeah, I'll watch it whenever it comes out. I'm not like super juiced about it, especially after episode 3. I was kind of disappointed.
If there's
Yeah.
one thing I want to say real quick, it's that all of the performances I have greatly enjoyed, and
Oh,
the
yes.
effects, for the most part, have been pretty fantastic. It's just
Oh,
where
yeah.
the writing seems to be coming in that things seem to be taking a back, like that quality seems to be dipping.
Dave Filoni
Which is
moment.
unfortunate because everything else is dependent on the writing.
Yep.
Yep.
So hopefully quality stabilizes a little bit and we settle in at a nice at least 6 of 10 for the rest
Please, I'm
moving
begging.
forward. That's all I had to say.
Yeah.
Well, if that's all, I do believe this has been our bi-weekly segment of the Hyperdrive Hour. Goodbye, y'all. We will see you in 2 weeks to talk about another 2 episodes of Ahsoka. And if I have negative things to say, I might cry.
We'll always
If we
have
don't see
negative
Rex
things
in the
to
next
say.
2 episodes, I'm actually crying. I am just going to riot.
Yeah. All right. And more serious note, goodbye, y'all. See you in 2 weeks. Hope you enjoyed your stay. Everybody else, say goodbye now.
Ciao.
now.
Prossimi. Adios.
Bye.